Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a Second Amendment nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning and welcome to the program. Hour one of the big radio broadcast this morning as we get things ready to rock and roll. Got a good show lined up for you today. Happy to talk about, one of our favorite topics, one I think is one of the most important topics when it comes to freedom and all that good jazz. Of course, the Second Amendment and the gun culture here in the United States. It is. It's Friday. It's like my weekly therapy session where we get a chance to sit down and talk about these issues and more. Good morning and welcome to the program. We are, of course, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and our website at michaeldukeshow.com has links to not only the audio-only live stream, but to the podcast, which is available wherever you find good podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google, CastBox, Stitcher, and Spotify, and the links to our social media sites where we simulcast the show every day, Monday through Friday. So it's good. We're ready to get into it and jump on board. Okay. So what's on the agenda for today? Well, in hour one, I've got a bunch of headlines to go over and things to discuss, including the latest from, I think his name is Brian Campbell, if I'm not mistaken. Brian Tannehill, I'm sorry. He writes for a Substack called Hand Waving Freakoutery, which has always had some great mathematically consistent, statistically accurate articles about gun control. So we're going to discuss his latest piece, which just came out, I guess, earlier this week, Tuesday, talking about that the war on guns is lost and why. And it's going to be interesting to see what, no, his name is Brian. Bryn Tannehill's the one that wrote the article for the New Republic. His name is Brian Campbell. Anyway, I'll have links to what we're talking about this morning in the chat room. If you want to come over there and take a look at it, you could do that. But lots of headlines, phone lines as well, discussions. Phone lines are open right now. If you want to call in anytime in hour one, you're feel free to do so. We want to say thank you to our friends over there at Satellite West for being part of the program and helping to provide support each and every day. Number is 907-433-3150 if you want to come on board and talk with us. If you want to find out more about Satellite West, all you got to do is go to satellitewest.com and you'll find a full list of local dealers and all the equipment and tools and everything else you need to stay connected in the state of Alaska. That's Satellite West. Thank them for sponsoring the program as well. In hour two of the broadcast today, it's going to be Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, season 4. He'll be coming on board, and we'll be chit-chatting with him about the latest and greatest stuff that he's got, and then some. Get the California perspective, so to speak. And then finally, at the end of the show this morning, it's Willie Waffle. He's coming on board for the weekend streaming review, including, I can't wait, so excited. I can't wait to see what he says about the movie, about the movies and the streams. This week, he's talking about the new vampire movie, Renfield, with Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, which I'm excited about, and whatever other entertainment news is out there and fit to print. So that's that. That's the whole show this morning. So I guess we should get things started. I've got a plethora of news stories ahead of me here, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes up on the list. We're going to hold up on this article from Hand Waving Freakoutery till probably the last segment of this hour, because it's going to take, I think, a whole segment to kind of break that down and have some discussions about this. Earlier in the week, we had conversations about what was going on in Tennessee with the ejection of 2 of their representatives from the state house due to the fact that they broke decorum rules and basically were causing a mass scene inside the legislature, joining with protesters and everything else. And that all had to do, of course, with gun control and the events that played out in Tennessee over the last 2 weeks. We had mass shootings in both Nashville and a workplace shooting in Louisville. And that has, put a target directly on the rights of citizens in Tennessee, which normally you would consider to be a pretty pro-gun state. And so we talked about it. In fact, we talked about it in part yesterday with JD Tuchili, because it's a prime example of kind of this urban-rural divide, this disconnect between those who are living in the compressed, mega city environment versus those who are more self-sufficient and live out in the country and do things like that. And so it was surprising to me that it was late yesterday, I saw a piece come out talking about Tennessee Republicans who may be cautiously supporting a call for gun control. Now, this could be due to the enormous pressure that you've seen of the things happening in the House. It could be the fact that somebody just wants to do something, right? That's the second political disease, right after the fact that they want to tell you how to live your life and, how to best do the things that you want to do. The other thing is that if anything happens, any kind of tragedy or crisis or anything else, there's this reactivity that you see from politicians where they feel like, even though when the best policy may have been to just be hands off and to wait for cooler heads to prevail instead of making an emotionally based decision, they have this enormous need to just do something. And that may be part of the case of what's going on here. So Tennessee, again, a reputation as a pretty pro-gun state. And yet now the Republican governor, Governor Bill Lee, has called for gun control. Now, it's not full gun control, right? It's just red flag laws, which, while not as bad as many of the other options out there, has its own pitfalls, including, as we've seen many, many times before, the lack of due process and the potential for a red flag law to be used inappropriately and to be weaponized and used against people who have a grievance. But it's still, that's plenty bad enough. Now it seems like some of the Republicans in the state house and the Republican leadership are open to the idea. According to WKRN.com, in Tennessee, 2 weeks after thousands of protesters descended upon the state capitol in support of stricter gun control laws. Governor Bill Lee announced he's pushing for an order of protection law, a red flag law, to prevent people law enforcement proves are threatening from purchasing guns. Now, here's the problem. The proves are threatening. The people who are that the law enforcement proves are threatening. That's the big part, because that's not really how the red flag law works overall. The lack of due process in it is astonishing. So, we'll talk about that, though. It won't solve all the problems, said the lieutenant governor, but I think it will take a good step forward. But the governor is probably going to run into into a roadblock, according to the WKRN, his own party. In the last few years, much of the Republican supermajority has been starkly against any sort of gun restrictions. The Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson was quoted as saying, "We need to be very, very careful. I do not support anything that does not include full due process." Johnson is the de facto second in command of the Senate and says he supports Lee's order of protection, but it's a delicate balance because he wants to preserve Second Amendment rights. And again, the problem with red flag laws primarily is the fact that every one of them thus far that has been passed in this country it has and does in some way, shape, or form, and to some degree of severity, basically crush due process for the person accused. And of course, I think that's working as intended, because in order for it to work the way it's supposed to work, which is to take guns away from somebody as quickly as possible so nobody can get hurt, there's little chance for that due process to actually be observed. Now, Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms is talking about this, and he said the fact that there's even a discussion like this going on is troubling. And he says to worry, he starts to worry about things like, did the backlash from ejecting these two legislators give an effect to that? Was there something else going on? Is there pressure? Any kind of crack in that facade is troubling to many people who've been watching this for many years, because usually it's, again, the camel's nose under the tent. That's the worrying part about all this. But, I guess the good news is that it's still a long and uphill battle. According to WKRN, again, the Tennessee legislature, which is heavily Republican, they have a supermajority in the legislature. They said it figures that it would take 25% of the Republicans in the House and nearly 30% of Republicans in the Senate and every other Democrat out there to agree to be able to move this thing. So that's a very, very heavy lift. But I guess the most troubling thing is that it's even being discussed at this moment. Again, I think this falls back into that dichotomy of politicians who feel like they have to do something. And of course, we've already seen how this doesn't necessarily work. Colorado had a red flag law. I mean, it didn't stop Colorado Springs from having a mass shooting. But there have been reports, including one documented report, where one person in Colorado tried to use the red flag law to disarm someone that she had a beef with. She actually ended up, in the long run, she filed a false report and was arrested for it. But after the whole thing was in process, can you imagine your whole life being torn up because you made somebody upset? I mean, you may eventually clear your name, but I mean, the chaos that would ensue from something like that. I mean, red flag laws are not in most states, and I would venture to say probably in every state. There are already laws on the books that if somebody is a danger to themselves or someone else, that law enforcement can come in and have a intervention, so to speak, including the ability to, disbar these people from being able to keep firearms. Why do we need a law that has this arbitrary process of anonymity, the abrogation of due process, and all these other things when we already have laws on the books? I mean, that's the thing. We've already seen them be weaponized. It wasn't a fact in the with the story of the gentleman back in, it just escaped me, Maryland, early on when red flag laws were just brand new and they had one in the state, and the first death by red flag law happened, and it was just a dispute between a man and one of his relatives. She was mad at him or disturbed by whatever. It was a political dispute. And she called the police, and they showed up at his house at 4:45 in the morning to seize his firearms. And of course, he answered the door with a gun and was shot dead. He didn't know what was going on. So that's not the kind of stuff that we want to deal with. Well, why did he answer the door with a gun? Because it was 4:45 in the morning. Who doesn't answer the door with a gun at 4:45 in the morning? Right? I mean, come on. Anyway, that's just one of the big stories out there right now. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on Tennessee and see what happens as we move forward here. All right, we got more coming up. Again, Chris Cheng, Willie Waffle in hour 2, your phone calls, and more. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more Firearms Friday right after this. Feel free to call us up. Phone lines are open for Gun Friday. Gun Q&A all day, 907-433-3150. Back with more after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Yeah, why would I open a door and at 4 in the morning when somebody's, pounding on my door, why would I not have a gun when I go to open the door? And quite honestly, whenever anybody knocks on my door, I have a gun. That's just because I'm armed all the time. And yes, if it's somebody that I didn't know was coming over, I have my hand on my gun. Why? You don't know. You just don't know. It's insane. It's insane. And never open the door without a warrant. Yeah, I mean, how many of us out there have Ring doorbells? I've got a Ring for security and convenience more than anything else. Yeah, good thing. You better call me first, Rick, before you come on over and show up. But I have a Ring doorbell for just that reason. I could, flick it on and say, hello, can I help you? And whether that means I just got out of the shower or I'm pooping or I'm in the studio doing something, I don't have to go all the way downstairs to go answer the front door. I can just flick my phone on. That's crazy. That is crazy. But yeah, and then I would never open the door without a warrant. My dogs would be eating their faces off, says Denise. My gun is just a backup. Well, but unfortunately, they'll just shoot your dogs. That's what it's all about. And of course, we've heard stories. In fact, what was it last week before? We talked about the home invasion gang. They would go around and scream police when they came in, just to throw you off so you wouldn't defend yourself. I mean, that's the problem, Yeah, no one as Jerica. I've never associated a knock at 4 a.m. as a good thing. Nobody has. I mean, nobody has done that. Nobody thinks that, unless you're some kind of night owl or work the graveyard, nobody thought that showing up at your house at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning and knocking on your door is a good idea. Yeah. So anyway, that's just the danger of the red flag. There are already involuntary commitment laws. There are already other laws that could be put into effect. It's just that those laws have pesky due process built into them. That's why they want this new one. I mean, you got to understand the importance of this. I mean, this is why, and I know I know probably many of you are Trump supporters and everything else, but this was always one of my biggest problems. Not only that I thought Trump was very self-serving in many, many ways, but his stance on the Second Amendment was so blowing in the wind that it infuriated me. And his comment, I mean, not only did he ban bump stocks by executive fiat, which I'm not a bump stock fan, but it was an infringement. There's no two ways about it. And he didn't have the authority, as the courts have pointed out now. But his comment after Parkland, where he basically said, we'll just take the guns and worry about due process later. If that doesn't scare the absolute hell out of you, when somebody who has been entrusted with the power of the presidency has sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and he blatantly says, I will take the guns and worry about due process later, if that doesn't just cause you to have a shiver right down to the base of your soul, you may need a checkup from the neck up. You may need to think about that. Anyway, sorry. That's just something that just, I mean, I'm so infuriated by that. So infuriated by that whole thing. Because it's not just the Second Amendment. It's the First Amendment. It's all the other amendments. We'll just do it and worry about due process later. What the actual hell? That's not how it works. That is not how it works. All right, like and share, like and follow. Let's get this going on. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Subscribe and ring the bell.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yep, I'm only here to hurt your feelings. I'm only here to hurt your feelings. I'm not a fan of the murder guns. I only want all my guns are protection guns. I double checked them. They are all murder gun free. They're all protection guns. No murder guns in this house. So that's how it works. I was just talking during the break, and we were talking about all these red flag laws, and the problem again with them is the fact that they compromise the cornerstone, the foundational principle of jurisprudence in this country, the due process component of it, right? The innocent until proven guilty and all those things. That's all part and parcel of due process. And the problem with the red flag laws is they just hop, skip, and jump right by that. Many times people who have been, many of these red flag laws basically don't even have reporting requirements to the person who is being red flagged until after the fact, and they show up to take your guns. There's no notification where you can defend yourself and say that, Your Honor, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And, the biggest problem that we have is we've got people like Donald freaking Trump, who, I mean, I know many of you love him, and he's an opportunist, okay? He's an opportunist. He's a populist. He does the whole thing. Wherever the wind blows, that's where he goes. You could see it in his writings. You can go back and read his book from 2005, where he talks about there should be, massive waiting periods and nobody needs an assault rifle and all this kind of stuff. And I know somebody out there is going to go, but he changed his mind. He changes his mind all the time. As a Republican president, he's done more to help gun control. He's the biggest helper since George W. Bush, who told the Congress after the assault weapons ban expired that, he'd be willing to sign it again if they just put it on his desk. And the biggest thing, this is, again, never been a Trump supporter. But the biggest thing is that we saw not only did he bypass the American legal system by issuing an executive order to ban bump stocks, which again, bump stocks are stupid. They're a novelty item. There's no serious shooter out there who would really, but some people have fun with them. So I'm all for you being able to have them. I don't necessarily own one and I'm not really interested, but you should have the right to have them. And the fact that he banned it by executive order, which, by the way, abrogates the whole constitutional separation of powers, as we're seeing the courts decide now, right? As we're seeing the courts decide now that what he did was illegal, that he did not have the authority to, through administrative action to do that. The most chilling words I ever heard come out of his mouth were after the Parkland shooting, where he's sitting at the desk not in the Oval Office. He's in some briefing room in the White House. He's having a round table with the chief of police of the city where Parkland High was in Florida, and they're all talking and everything else. And he says, well, you know what? We're just going to find these people. We're going to talking about how this guy was, a danger to himself and others. We'll just take the guns and we'll worry about due process later. We're just going to take the guns and we'll worry about due process later. Now, I'm sorry. You may love the Donald. You may not. You may love him. What? Any president who says we'll just take X, now fill in the blank on whatever that is, any fundamental right that is inherent in we the people, inalienable right. Any president that says we'll just take X and we'll worry about due process later, if that just doesn't cause a tightening of the bowels for you and a little bead of sweat to draw off it, if that just doesn't give you the shivers, you may want to rethink your position. I mean, that's part of the problem around here. Is that we've got politicians, and this is not simply a Trump thing. This is every politician, especially at the national level. Oh, that pesky due process, it just keeps getting in the way of the things that we want to do. Oh, those pesky civil rights, they just keep getting in the way of things we want to do. But that's the important part. And as I said before, there are already all these laws on the books in the various states that have, involuntary commitment laws and the ability to, lock people down or give them a 48-hour break and mental health evaluation and do all these things. And yes, even ways to take away or separate them from their firearms. The problem that people are seeing, especially on the gun control side, is that all of those things have a due process component. So people can fight back against it. And that means it's working as intended. That means it's working as it was intended. People have the right to be free. I, again, couldn't. Anyway. All right. Where was I? Oh, Gretchen. Oh, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. Remember this gal? She was the one that wanted to have people arrested for buying seeds at Walmart during the pandemic because how dare they go down that aisle because that was not an aisle that was deemed to be necessary. Remember this whole thing? Gretchen Whitmer. She just signed 2 pieces of gun control into law on Thursday with another bill to establish a red flag law, which is likely to be approved by the state legislature's narrow Democratic majority. In fact, it may already have happened because I read this story yesterday. So it may have happened yesterday. Surrounded by anti-gun activists and lawmakers, she declared the measure to be common sense gun policy. And then the quote from the paper Senator Rosemary Bear from Kego Harbor let out a scream of finally when taking the lectern to speak prior to the bill signing. They finally got what they wanted. She's seen as one of the driving forces behind safe storage legislation following the shooting at Oxford High School. And then she apologized for gun control advocates for the wait and said there's more to come. There's more to come. She said, I'm thrilled that we're here today to finally take this first step towards forward to address this horrible epidemic that we have, gun violence, that's taking away our families and our friends and our members and our children. Finally, we are changing the law in Michigan to make sure that there's a background check on every gun purchased, not just handguns, and keep guns out of the hands out of people who should have them. Now, you'll note, interestingly enough, that she's already admitted there's already a requirement back for a background check on handguns, something that didn't stop any of the gun. There's already a background check because criminals, by their definition, break the law, and there's criminals in Michigan who are getting handguns without getting the background check already. So, fail. The new universal background check law will be an imposition and an inconvenience for no one but legal gun owners. That's why they call them criminals. And there's also a new part of this that is going to require safe storage laws, which requires safety of safely storing firearms while minors are present. A person could be guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by not more than 93 days in jail and a fine of no more than $500 or both if a minor obtains a firearm due to improper storage. Additional fines and fees are then prescribed for an adult if the minor hurt another person. These increase should a minor kill another person. But they already had laws on the books for this. Remember the Oxford High School shooter? That was where the parents bought the pistol for their kid and just gave him unlimited access to it despite concerns over his mental health. Under an existing Michigan law, the parents have already been charged with felony manslaughter. So do we really need another law telling us to do what is rational common sense? And then, of course, they had the red flag law, and this article goes on to talk about how one of the biggest due process changes was to increase the standard of proof needed to gain an ERP, which is an extreme risk protection order, ERPO. And again, they're trying to amend it to make sure that some of those due process, the Republicans that are in that legislative body are trying to fight back to make sure that they can keep some of that due process in there. Because a lot of people, both Republicans and Democrats, but mostly progressives, are okay with that elimination of due process as long as it's something that, that you have to deal with and not them. So terrifying. So terrifying. Meth is illegal too, and look how well they've done with stopping that, says Richard in the chat room. Hey, you know what? Hard drugs are illegal too, and yet you find them in all of our prisons. Hard drugs, contraband, shivs, knives, phones, all different kinds. All of that is available in prison, which we would think would be the ultimate, lockdown. Criminals, by their very definition, break the law, and they will continue to do so because that's just the way it is. All right, coming up next, I've got this piece from Hand-Waving Freakoutery where he's going over the fact that, in his estimation, the war on guns is lost, and it's the left's doing. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. It's a great article, and I'll post links up in the chat room for those of you who want to read in the meanwhile or have it for later on. We'll return with more in just a moment. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Going backwards here. Over 20,000 federal gun laws on the books alone. Yeah. The Federal Register has over 20,000 regulations regulating firearms in one way, shape, or form, from export to personal use to everything else. Don't necessarily own a bump stock. Well stated. Yeah, I mean, I've shot bump stocks. I've had friends that have had bump stocks, and yeah, they're fun. I mean, they're rat-a-tat-tat makes it almost like a machine gun, but I've never had a desire to go out and spend several $100s on one just to blow through ammo. I mean, I can bump fire almost any semi-automatic rifle I own. Bump fire is not that hard. You don't have to have a special pre-built thing. But the problem with bump fire is that it's not really that accurate and it wastes a lot of ammo, which is more precious than gold these days. I mean, have you tried to buy ammo? My first line of defense is currently snoring on the couch. Yeah, I mean, that's part of what happens. But again, I wouldn't be trusting my dog to be preventing somebody in law enforcement or somebody who's pretending to be law enforcement to kick open the door and they just shoot your dog. I mean, law enforcement will shoot your dog, let alone criminals. You got to have a better, you got to understand that your dog may be the first line of defense, but you understand that it's a disposable, it's like cannon fodder in the old wars, right? Where they threw all the peasants up front and made them rush the lines. That's unfortunate, but that's the truth. Go Trump. What? This is the Go Trump show? Apparently, Harold is listening to music in his own mind. That must be why he's so random sometimes, because he's listening to the show and he must be listening to the other voices in his head. Because anybody who's listened to this show for longer than a week understands that I am and have never been a fan of DJT, the Donald. Let's see. Murder guns, LOL. I want to know if anybody has seen the data where a red flag case has actually ended in the gun owner being adjudicated mentally unfit to bear firearm. I saw some numbers, and it's actually a pretty low number of the cases where that is the case, Jeannie. I'm trying to remember who had it up. Maybe it was John Lott. I'll have to look to see if I can find it. But there has actually been some. There actually has been some. Part of the problem with that, by the way, is that those orders expire, and if you don't fight it, I don't think that they were tracking it. If you don't fight it, that you had them taken away for 6 months, and then they just came back automatically unless they extended it. I'll have to. Somebody did some numbers on it. We'll have to come back to it. Okay. As soon as the tax refund comes, it's bag day. Cannon fodder. Annie took offense to that. I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's sad, but you have to understand that if you do get a dog for home defense and there is a determined foe, be it, I mean, you saw the story the other day, right, about the police officer who showed up at the wrong house. He's now being sued. He showed up at the wrong house, shot the homeowner to death. Because he showed up the house across the street. This happens all the time. This is why no-knock warrants are so dangerous. No-knock warrants, which were ostensibly for the safety of the officer, have now become more dangerous for citizens than anything else. There's been more pets and people killed in those no-knock warrant raids than you could shake a fish stick at. But you have to understand that if you have an animal that is there for your protection, that more than likely, if you have a determined attacker, whether it's a bad guy pretending to be a police officer or just a flat old bad guy, or if it's a police officer who's come to the wrong house by accident, more than likely your dog's going to get shot. That's what happens. Yeah, small high-speed dogs are harder to shoot than most people realize. All right. Let's get back into it. Here we go, I guess. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like it, share, like it, follow. Let's do it. No. I started that way too early. Sorry. I got to make sure I get it right. Timing is everything.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. Welcome back to the program. Hour 1 of Firearms Friday continues. Coming up in our next hour, we're going to be talking with Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion from season 4 of the show Top Shot on the History Channel. And we'll also be visiting with Willie Waffle for our weekend movie review. Can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to hearing about Renfield. I mean, who else out there watches some of the trailers for some of these movies just to see it looks so hysterically funny. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what's going on. Anyway, Willie Waffle is going to tell us all about that. All right. I still got some other stories that we can get to here. I guess we did that one and we did that one. So now it's time to talk about the big story for the day that I've been kind of excited about. And that is a piece from this week from Hand Waving Freakoutery, which is it's a Substack blog written by, I think his name is Brian Campbell, if I remember correctly. I've tried to get him on the program several times, but he's a private citizen who writes this blog in his spare time. He's got quite a following. He does a lot of stuff about statistics and gun control, and he really writes. In fact, one of his best, BJ Campbell, Brian J. Campbell. He recently did an article that we covered on the show talking about the surprisingly solid mathematical case for the tinfoil hat gun prepper. And he talked about it statistically, and he used floodplain analysis as an analog for it. Really, really good. Really good writer. I see he's appeared on the Jim Rutt Show. Well, okay. I guess I'm going to have to try and redouble my efforts to get him on the show. So anyway, BJ Campbell wrote about this article that was in The New Republic, which is a progressive magazine written by Bryn Tannehill. And the headline of the story is "The Grim Truth. The War on Guns is Lost. There are more unregistered guns in this country than are possessed by the Pentagon, DHS, and police departments combined. And Republicans want more of them." That's the headline. Now, the truth of this is that point was passed quite a while ago. Right? I mean, that whole point of the war on guns is lost. But the point about there are more unregistered guns in this country than are possessed by the Pentagon, Department of Homeland Security, and police departments combined, that's been true for years. That's not like that's a big surprise. there are approximately 670,000 law enforcement officials in the country who work in law enforcement at the state, county, borough, federal, 670,000 law enforcement. Let's just say each one of them had 3 guns attached to them. That's only 1.8, just under 2 million guns. 2 million guns for the law enforcement. You know, if you had a 1,000,000-man army and you had 2 guns for each of those people in the 1,000,000-man army, that'd be another 2 million guns. Double that to 4, just to be generous. So now you've got 6 million guns. And then you got Department of Homeland Security and all the other federal, although that's kind of wrapped up in the 670,000. But let's just round it all the way up to 10 million guns for all the officialdom, for all the only ones that should be allowed to have firearms, right? Only the police and the military should have firearms. So let's just round it up to 10 million. And then for giggles, double that to 20 million. 20 million guns. Well, I mean, it was being reported back, man, this is back in the early 2000s, that there were 250 million guns in America. Now, the most recent numbers that have come out, which I personally think are woefully inadequate, is about 450 million guns in America. Because that was when it went over the 1 gun per person thing, and it was like, oh my God, there's so many guns. There's only 330 million, and now we got 400 million guns. That's more than 1 gun per person. How can we deal with it? What's going to happen? And to that, all I could say is, man, with the underreporting and everything else, I guarantee you, there are over 750 million guns in this country. That's 750 million for you pedantic people out there. 750 million guns in this country. I almost guarantee it. All you have to do is look at the number of background checks year on year. Just over the last 5, 6, 8 years alone, it's been hovering around 20, 21, 26 million gun checks a year. And some of those are for multiple. Some of those are for old guns. Some of those are for new guns. But that's just 150 million guns in the last 7 years alone. I mean, but she mentions that. I think it's important that you notice that she mentions that at the top of the subheading. But BJ Campbell goes on through and says here, he was struck by how tone deaf the content of this article was. He said, she had the most honest headline in history for the New Republic, but he said it struck him as just how tone deaf the content was. He said Bryn, who surely is a devout blue triber, seems to have no idea that her tribe's loss in the war was their fault. Her fault, even. He starts to go through it, and of course he says most of the article is a rehashing of the usual red tribers are evil, right? Because he does the whole thing, blue tribe, red tribe, pro-gun, anti-gun, conservative, liberal, whatever you want to say. But he says most of her article goes through the usual red tribers are evil banality built on the presumption that guns are the problem, and that the blue tribe measures would fix the problem without a true look at the mathematics or the policy efficacy. But certain sections of the article pop purely because of how truly, brutally honest they are about the situation they find themselves in. And to me, this is the good news part of it. He quotes her, "The war is lost. There's no conceivable way for the things to change for the better within the next 20 to 30 years, short of a national divorce," which is a nice way of saying succession, a breakup of the United States. Short of a national divorce. There's no way to change hearts and minds of Republicans or the courts. There's no way to change who is in the office in most states. There's no way to replace who sits on the courts quickly or change conservative disdain for stare decisis, which is the concept of precedent, by the way, that many courts operate off of. We're seeing permitless concealed carry, open carry, allowances to carry in more places, ending gun-free zones, laws banning red flag laws. All the while, the number of guns in circulations keeps rising by the millions year after year after year. So far, I don't see a problem. Republicans keep insisting that the solution to gun violence is more guns, and they're going to keep going with that theory no matter what the results are. This is a one-way ratchet. The path going forward has only one possible outcome: more guns, less regulation on their lethality, and less government authority over who owns them. Yes, it's called the Constitution. Less government authority over who owns them. Yes. May I have another? Short of a national divorce, there's nothing that can be done at this point. Bryn's byline reads, by the way, Bryn Tannehill is a Naval Academy graduate, former naval aviator, author, and senior defense analyst. She currently lives in North Virginia with her wife and 3 children. Blue checker. Okay, fine. I mean, I don't care how people live. They want to do that, it's fine. But BJ goes on to talk about, is she correct that the only way to move the national needle towards gun control is succession? The answer is yes. Are red drivers scared of that? No. Why? Because if a national divorce happens, who would be the ones that would be fighting it or fighting against it? Or, I mean, at that point, who's got the guns? Not all the blue tribers who are basically out there saying, oh, nobody should have guns. And now we're going to throw a secession. The only people who have guns are the people who want the guns, and now you want to take their guns away. You think that they're just going to meekly give them up? I mean, he said the biggest blind spot in the entire piece, rhetoric aside, is the unwillingness to acknowledge why gun control is lost. It wasn't due to gerrymandering or political trickery. It was because so many people bought so many guns that the laws no longer matter. There are too many guns to seize. And the reason there are too many guns is because of the actions taken by her tribe in and of itself. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll finish our thoughts on this, because this is just such good stuff. You need to go take a look at it. I got one line on hold. We'll start with that phone call on the other side. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and YouTube. If you have a YouTube account and you haven't come out and subscribed to the show on YouTube, would you help me out and do that? I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So feel free to head on over there and subscribe and ring the bell if you'd like. YouTube.com/Michael Duke Show. All right, we got to go. Back with more right after this. Okay. I'm scrolling backwards. BJ Campbell. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I would say Brian Campbell. Let's see. The gold miner was interesting. I'm sorry. I'm just going through, going back through the comments here. Just don't answer the door. Start a dialogue. The only door in my house that is breachable is a glass door. Only firemen breach glass doors. Breachable. Yeah, I mean, it's why you should have a solid core steel door in your front and a reinforced frame on the doors of your house. That's easily breachable. Background checks is not accurate, as many states like Alaska exempt concealed carry card holders from the NICS background check. The background checks are accurate because to get the NICS exemption on your concealed carry, you have to go through the process of the fingerprinting, the photographing, and going through the NICS check at the FBI and get that approval when it comes back. It's like a permanent NICS check. You have gone through the NICS check. It exempts you from subsequent NICS check for the length of the duration of your license because you've already proven you're one of the good guys, so to speak. All right. More guns are fine. Less educated idiots hyperventilating into a bag would be good. Yeah. More guns, less crime is, again, the whole thing about Dr. John Lott. I mean, he actually points that out in one of his first works as a statistician. And it's just been proven. And you could see that the overall decline in violent crime has continued since they started tracking this. Have we had an uptick in the last couple of years? Yeah, but we've had some tumultuous years in the last 2 or 3 years. So there has been an uptick. But prior to that, it's been on a steady decline for like 35 or 40 years. And the number of guns has increased 100%, maybe 200% in the last 30, 35, 40 years. Get a hurricane-rated door, says Brian Cherry. Interesting. I'd never heard of a hurricane-rated door. Might be something that I'm interested in. That is correct, but cannot be. Gary was saying that the background check that is correct, but that cannot be used as counting mechanism for number of guns sold. That's a rough estimation. When I said it's 20 million, 21 million background checks a year, first of all, we don't know how many of those are old guns being resold. We don't know how many of those, because the NICS background check can cover one or more firearms. You can buy 5 firearms under one NICS background check. And you just don't know. But I'm just saying, as a rough estimate, if you had 20 million background checks a year, and assuming that the old versus new and the multiple versus single guns kind of washed each other out, in 7 years, you'd have an additional 150 million guns in the market. It's a very rough estimate, Gary. There's no doubt about it. It can't be used as a true counting mechanism. You're right. Morning, Dad. My dad just showed up. He got a chance to sleep in this morning. The level of stupid people has gone up tenfold by comparison to gun ownership. All right. I'm going to have to go look into this hurricane-rated door thing. Because I don't know what a hurricane door is, unless it's a steel door that can't be penetrated by flying debris. Jerica's point on background checks is that it's background checks for gun purchases is a joke. You don't know if or when that person may be pushed beyond their limit and use that gun for bad, regardless of the intentions of purchase. I mean, yeah, sometimes people snap. It is what it is. Let me go over here to the phone, since somebody's been so patiently waiting and I forgot about him here while I was chatting with you. Let me get the take from people, see who they are and everything else. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Michael. It's Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Fred. I will be back to you here in a minute. I'm doing fine, my friend, but you hold the line and you'll be first out of the queue here when we get back. We're less than 2 minutes away from kicking things off here in just a hot second. So it's good to hear from you. Thank you for calling in down in Rhode Island. Okay. Off to the salt mine, TGIFF. Jeffrey, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Alaska need to stay on their toes. Otherwise, we're going to end up like Washington. I hope not. I mean, I'm doing everything I can to fight to keep that Alaskan last frontier spirit, but we'll have to see. We will have to see. And he says also, thank God we don't have to have a concealed carry permit to carry concealed in Alaska. And that's happening more and more across the country. I can't even remember now. I mean, at one point it was 12. I think we're up to 15 or 16 states now that don't require a permit to carry concealed. And we were right up there in the very beginning. Early day at work. I'm already at work. I've been at work for 2.5 hours already. What are you guys talking about? Oh, everybody else has got to go to their work. I see. For the last 2 years, the Blue Tribe has been the primary purchaser of firearms. And BJ talks about that in this article. We're going to get back into that. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday. Good morning and welcome to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world at MichaelDukesShow.com, where you'll find the podcast, the sites of the social media links, and the live stream. That was all in one breath. It was all good stuff. Welcome back to Hour 2. It is our favorite day of the week, Gun Day. We get a chance to talk with you, gun Q&A all day. We get a chance to talk with great guests. We've got Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, coming up here in a few minutes, and we're going to finish up today with Willie Waffle for your entertainment review. But first, let's get over to the phones because we got calls. Joining us on the line right now is our friend Fred, who listens to us every Friday all the way out in Rhode Island at the other side of the country. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good, sir. Good. You know, beginning part of your show, you know, you mentioned the issue about the red flag, and it's I don't say it's an overreach. I mean, it has merit. However, it also has a lot of potential for abuse, and that's the problem with the red flag, is the abuse part. And they will be abused. You know, I'm sure it will be. But you know, it boils down to one oversight that was never really brought up and talked about: the fact that people are aware of what's going on around them. I mean, they have friends and they know people who know people. And when something like this is going on, with these shooters down in Tennessee and over there in Kentucky, you know, they know that these people are around, and you know, they see them either going sideways, and something's not right in their life, and they know they probably have firearms. So if they say something, you know, it's kind of like living in New York City. You know, New York City, you know, somebody could be raped or murdered or strangled or whatever, and people just stand around and watch, you know, especially in this day and age with the cell phone cameras. Everybody wants to get in on the act in that department, but nobody wants to get in and help. Nobody wants to try and stop it. And if they sit there and made the effort to drop a dime and let the authorities know, you know, whether the authorities act on it or not, that's not the point. At least you made an effort. At least you've tried. And I'm sure that they would. You know, they jump in on it and they go talk to them. Even if they don't confiscate anything or do anything, at least they put the fear of God into them and let them know that they're on the radar. So anything they do from that moment on is going to be tracked, which means that they're probably not going to get away with anything if they're on the radar and they're being tracked.
Right.
You know?
Well, no, look.
And because the media, this has worked perfectly in the past. You know, people have dropped a dime. They found the guy. They intercepted him, like that trans, what do you want to call it? You know, that was caught before they did anything. But the media doesn't make a big deal about it. Why? Because it's not in there. You know, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't read. But that's part of it. And I think they are on the blue socialist agenda, you know, and whatever they want to do to, you know, take down the Second Amendment and everything else.
Right.
So, you know, it's not in their best interest to do that, even though it is their responsibility to do it.
Well, but the problem is, Fred, is that even when it is, even when it's not people's responsibility, even when it's the government's responsibility, we've seen this failures. I mean, they keep going back to, the red flag laws because law enforcement needs this to be able to stop these people and everything else. And all I have to do is point out there's been a variety of shooters, but the Parkland shooter is probably one of the most egregious ones. And that's the guy who had like 25 interactions with local law enforcement and over a dozen interactions with federal law enforcement before he went in there and shot up that school. They knew this guy was a bad actor. They knew he was a bad apple, and yet he still passed a background check and was able to go. Nobody bothered to do anything. This guy he kept turning up over and over and over again. Or the Sutherland Springs shooting in Texas, where, by the way, that family finally got a payout from the federal government tacitly admitting culpability because they failed to put the information that he was dishonorably discharged into the NICS system, so he was able to pass a background check and buy a rifle and go kill all those people. I mean, again, the laws that they keep putting in there, and they keep saying, oh, well, the government will keep us safe from this if we just follow all these rules. And it's been proven time and time again that they can't. The Naval Yard shooter, that guy had been busted in the military for illegal use of firearms it was all but he still got a gun and went in and shot one of the most secure places in the country. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. You're right. We should be paying attention to the people around us. We can't just rely on law enforcement and the government to do it. We should be responsible for our friends and neighbors.
Well, we've always, it's days gone by. That was the biggest thing in the latter days, back in the 30s and the 40s, 50s, and maybe in the 60s. Where people would react. People would make a phone call. They call the police. They call the sheriff. They let law enforcement know that something's not right here, and they should be looking into it. Now, anybody who files a false report, I think, should be, boiled in oil, as far as I'm concerned. You file a false police report for just for the sake of trying to, screw somebody's life up deliberately. I think that's totally wrong and should be, definitely should be punished to the highest degree. However, if there is any truth to the matter, then I think it's a personal responsibility, a moral obligation to do it. And if you don't do it, and you're probably just as guilty as the people committing the act, in my opinion. See something, say something.
Right.
And
right.
if you don't do it, well, then you can't blame anybody but yourself.
No,
that's just my view on that.
And of course, a big part of this problem is that we have we've eliminated the mental health care infrastructure in this country because it wasn't being handled properly and it kind of fell apart. But we don't have places to handle folks in a lot of ways who are having problems with reality and everything else. So we need to have a discussion about that as well. We need to have a discussion about the mental health issues on this as well, Fred. I couldn't agree more. And we should be paying attention to what's going on.
Obviously, that's a big part of it too. To have that discussion and do something in that department. But to sit there and blame the Second Amendment and the firearms and all the gun rights organizations and the red conservative members of our society, to sit there and play that. Now you're into politics. Now you're into this globalist crap that they're pushing, and then a lot of it is globalist crap, as you well know in our previous conversations. They want to sit there and take this country down. And the best way to do it is get rid of the guns so they can just have an unchecked, unbalanced, unopposed, doing whatever the dastardly deeds they want to do to take us down. And I think anybody who doesn't see that, you better wake up and have another cup of coffee. I think because you're definitely not seeing the big picture here.
Fred, I appreciate your call, my friend. Thanks for calling in this morning and joining us. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening out in Rhode Island.
Okay, you have a good week.
You bet. Let's go over here and take another phone call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron in North Pole.
Hey, Ron.
Well, something leaped out at me during your first hour where you were at least going back over a number of the past and proposed new firearms laws in various states. And it seemed to me that at least one thing stood out, that there's a great deal of emphasis being placed on safe storage and that sort of thing as far as people with firearms in their homes.
Right.
And I would hearken back to, I believe, a quote from Colonel Cooper. If you can't reach it, your training is wasted.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's part of the problem with the safe storage law is again, when you desperately need a firearm, and ostensibly many places are only really allowing firearms in some of these tighter places for home defense. But if you're required to keep it in a gun safe or keep the ammo in a separate locked container from the, when it's like when police, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. It's the same kind of argument. I mean, if you need a firearm, you usually need it now. You don't need to go try and hunt down the ammunition or go and try and fumble with a combination lock to get a gun safe open or anything else. You need it now. People have got to just take responsibility. And there are already laws. Again, going back to the Oxford High School shooting, those parents have already been charged with felony manslaughter for allowing him easy access to it. Do we really need other laws on top of that?
Well, yeah, it just seems sort of a squirrel cage situation, if you would.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, if you want to store your firearms in a gun safe to protect your family and have I'm all for that. I mean, I think it's probably a common sense thing to be, that's why I have guns in the safe, to make sure that they don't get stolen more than anything else, because I taught all my kids the dangers of firearms in the beginning. But I mean, that doesn't mean that every gun in my house is in a gun safe, because sometimes you have to have one that's easily accessible. Like, I need to be able to stand up, walk to the corner, pick up the gun, be able to ready to go right now, because you just never know. You just never know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. I'll leave you with that, sir. And you have a good week.
All right, Ron.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. All right. Back to this article from Hand Waving Freakoutery. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get through this whole article today. I recommend that you go over. You'll find Hand Waving Freakoutery, by the way, at hwfo.substack.com. That's Hand Waving Freakoutery, hwfo.substack.com. And you could find this article. It's called "The War on Guns is Lost." But I am going to get to this last point before we go. This is where he basically said, look, the reason that there are so many guns is because of the actions that this author, her Blue Tribe, that they took. He goes through a little bit of a litany. He said they locked down the economy and everyone bought guns. They killed everyone's jobs and everyone bought guns. They closed the schools, everyone bought guns. They created supply shortages on simple things like toilet paper and everybody got guns. They tried to crash the meat supply by shutting down central meatpacking facilities and not allowing locals to bypass FDA regulations, and everybody bought guns. They rioted and everybody bought guns. They burned police stations and everybody bought guns. They said the police were systemically racist and everybody bought guns. They said they were going to defund the police and everyone bought guns. They besieged federal buildings and everyone bought guns. They set up and allowed autonomous zones where no police were allowed to go, and shockingly, everyone bought guns. 2020, he goes on, talks about the vaccines and everything else. 2020 is one giant gun commercial. By the time they were done, 2020 was the greatest gun buying spree in the history of the nation. A nation who already has more guns than God himself, driven largely by first-time gun owners, minorities, and women, i.e., liberals, bought the guns. It's their own fault. Not surprising. Again, this is a fascinating article, and I recommend that you go over there and check it out at Hand Waving Freakoutery. All right, we got to go. Chris Cheng coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay, where were we? FRP, is that fiberglass? Is it fiberglass reinforced plastic? Is that fiberglass reinforced plastic? Is that what you're saying, Brian? Those are the hurricane-proof doors. FRP. Fiberglass reinforced plastic. Okay. And Rob Myers corrected me. I apparently have not been keeping track. 25 states now have permitless carry. And of course, Jim has the point here that, of course, if we outlawed murder, that would solve all these problems. Safe storage ads are a joke. How does it prevent suicide when it is the gun owner? Well, I mean, I'm assuming they may mean other people in their house or whatever. I mean, suicide is not that's the problem. People who've decided to commit suicide, the gun is convenient sometimes, but they're just as likely to throw themselves off a bridge or jump in front of a train or, park their car in the garage and snorkel the exhaust for a while. I mean, Japan, where they have virtually no firearms in Japan, has one of the highest suicide rates of any industrialized country. And it has nothing to do with guns because they have no guns. That's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. Arg, I posted it on my page as well. What do you mean, the hand-waving freakoutery? Yeah. It's such a good piece. I'm really glad I signed up for his newsletter. I get his content directly into my email box, and he has written some great pieces over there. I recommend that anybody who enjoys analytical discussions and numbers on things like discussions of things like gun control, that you go over there and read it. It's good stuff. All right. I got a line in the side of my head. My head got fatter. The glasses are pinching. Oh, it's because of my thing. All right. Yeah. My Sony headphones are pushing it. Harold was bragging about his Sonys. I've known about Sonys for years, man. These are the best headphones available. I've got 3 pairs. I love them. They are the best headphones available. Japanese don't need guns. They know karate, and all the Chinese all know kung fu. Of course not. Although committing suicide by karate is probably a little more difficult than you might think, I guess. Okay. Why not trust the government? They can't figure out the difference between boys and girls, and they happily arm the Taliban. Where's the problem? Of course we can't recognize. I mean, trust we're from the government and we're here to help. Right? Was it Reagan that said that? Those are the 11 most frightening words in the English language. We're from the government and we're here to help. Definitely a little bit of a terrifying statement, to say the least. Okay. Getting things ready. I see that Chris Cheng just popped into the green room, so we're going to be over to him here in just a moment and talk with him about some of the stuff that's going on out there. And we'll see what happens. We'll get a hot take from him here in just a second. We'll do a test. We're about 1 minute out. I guess it's time. We probably should bring him on over just to make sure that the audio is properly working. Let's get it going on. Good morning,
Hey, good morning.
How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, not too shabby. I'm here in Indianapolis for the NRA annual meeting.
Oh, I guess some interesting stuff. I saw Jeff Knox posted something earlier, like we're going to give it one more shot here, is what he said, kind of thing. They're trying to bring some accountability, especially after the Ackerman McQueen lawsuit. I don't know if you saw that $12 million settlement with the NRA. Some interesting stuff going on, but we can talk about that. Let's start off with that, and then we'll move on to some of the stuff that I want to talk about. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we're going to jump into it. Chris Cheng is our guest. Chop shot. Oh man, what a day.
Top shot.
I know, top shot. Iron Chef. Here we go. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I talk for a living, and apparently today it's like a mouthful of marbles. Chop shot top champion Iron Chef. It's Chris Cheng. He joins us this morning to talk about everything else. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning to you as well.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board and joining us. He is not an Iron Chef, but he is an Iron Sights chef. He can do it with Iron Sights. He can really cook. All right, Chris joins us. Of course, he is Top Shot champion, season 4 of the History Channel Top Shot. He's also been the Go Big Show, the National Shooting Sports Foundation spokesperson, one of the founders of the Asian American Pacific Gun Owners Association. I mean, he wears so many hats, he needs a bigger head. That's what's going on. He is in Indianapolis today because he's getting ready for the NRA annual meeting, which could have some interesting fireworks on there. Chris, tell us why you're there and what you expect to see while you're down there.
Yeah, so every year the National Rifle Association holds its annual meeting, and the main part of the gathering is for members, right, to come and elect new officers, to the board of directors. Obviously, debate and discuss business before the NRA. Right, we are a member organization. I think something like 5 million members. At the NRA, and so in addition to the meetings, there's also all the exhibitors. And so it's really great to see, new products. And right, if you want to, come get product, this is a great place to be.
Right. No, lots of good stuff. And it's always exciting. I know a lot of my friends who have been movers and shakers in the NRA at the state level and things like that. This is they look forward to this. This is the day that they go down there and they look forward to meeting with fellow gun lovers and to take part and be part of the largest gun organization in the country. A lot of things are kind of shaky and have been for the NRA here recently. Do you see any kind of discussion like that going on? I know folks like Jeff Knox and others have been talking about trying to bring Rob Pincus. They've been trying to bring some accountability to some of the things that the NRA has been doing, because obviously there's been some screw ups. I mean, the state of New York is, in the middle of a lawsuit with them and everything else for misuse of funds. It was just announced this week that they finally settled with their PR firm, Ackerman McQueen, legal and PR firm, for a $12 million settlement there's just all kinds of this stuff going on, which the average NRA member is like, what is happening down there? Are these things going to come up, do you think?
I think it's sort of this ever-present, out over the head of the NRA. And, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I support the NRA. We need a strong NRA. But these challenges are definitely weighing us down, right? It's definitely distracting. And I think there's many members like me who just, let's move past this, as quickly as possible. To be frank, I don't really care what that looks like, right? Let's just resolve the problems so we can get back to serving the members, right? Protecting and defending the Second Amendment. And let's not get more distracted by some of this drama that's going on. But
that's for sure. I mean, the drama is obviously problematic, first and foremost for the reason that the drama was able to actually percolate and the causes of it. But you're right. This organization needs to focus on protecting our gun rights. And instead it be kind of, in some ways it became kind of a good old boys club, kind of where they were, self-serving and everything else. Instead of serving the membership, it was almost like it was very self-serving. And I think many people have stated in one way or another, basically to paraphrase, we need to clean house. We need to clean up our own house and get it going on, because like you, I mean, look, I'm an NRA supporter, always have been. That doesn't mean that I can't criticize what's going on and that we shouldn't always do a gut check to make sure that the organization is pointing in the direction that it needs to and focusing on the things that it needs to.
Exactly. And so, the annual meeting, part of this weekend is, members can, come and speak directly to NRA leadership, put forward motions for change. And, every annual meeting, I think, has a little bit of fireworks. I know Jeff Knox and Rob Pincus are definitely, proponents of changing up NRA leadership. We'll see how successful or not successful, they are this time around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think overall we're looking at a time in America where gun owners and people in the gun culture, for the first time in a long time, have the upper hand, I think, in a lot of ways. The Brune decision and the repercussions of that continue to ripple across the country. We've seen decisions now out of federal courts that the executive orders of people like Trump and Biden have both been deemed to be extra constitutional, and that's slowing them down there. And we just discussed this article. I don't know if you follow BJ Campbell over at Hand Waving Freakoutery.
He's a great one. Yeah, he has some excellent write-ups.
I've been trying to get a hold of that guy I want him on the program. I've been trying to get a hold of him forever. So if you got a hookup, let me know.
I will.
He just wrote this article talking about the lament from a writer at the New Republic saying the war on guns is lost. And I'm thinking, yeah, you guys have done it to yourself. I mean, you shut down the country. You tell us you can't trust the police because they're racist. Tell us to defund the police. You tell us all these other things. You set up the autonomous zones. You do all these things, and you're shocked, I tell you, when people go out and buy guns because they're afraid. They need to protect themselves. But I think this is probably as much as any time in my lifetime. Maybe when I was late in my late teens, we may have had the same kind of upper hand. But I think we're actually further ahead now than we ever have been. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop the full court press on protecting our gun rights.
Yeah, absolutely. And, while at the federal level with the Brune decision, definitely strengthened the Second Amendment. However, gun control advocates are taking the fight to the state level. The state level is where they're actually making a lot of progress. And this is progress in states that used to be pretty pro-gun, states like Colorado and Washington and Oregon State. And we're seeing the Second Amendment under attack in those state houses. So you're definitely right. We can't rest on our laurels. And the gun control side, while they definitely know that they're pretty wounded here, right, with the Brune decision, it has also galvanized many of them, right, and they are putting in more energy, more money, more time to try and undo the effects of the Brune decision.
Right.
So we're, we definitely, gun rights activists, we have the upper hand at the moment. And I think like in any competition, we can't let our guard down, right? We can't let off the gas, right? This is far from over. And to be frank, like it's never going to be over, right? If we ever reach, attain all of our goals, I mean, the beautiful thing about democracy is that things can be undone and changed, right? And that can be a good thing and a bad thing, depending on exactly what we're talking about. But that's the imperfect beauty of our country. So yeah, everyone still needs to pay attention to what's happening to gun rights in our country.
I think you're right. I think, the national stage is set. We've got, again, the upper hand there, but they've gotten smarter. We're seeing a lot of ballot initiatives and things like that don't necessarily go through the legislative process to be vetted. It's usually a simple one-sentence question. Do you want us to change this? And then they put it to a vote of the people, which, again, I'm not against ballot measures, but a lot of times they are not properly vetted for the unintended consequences of them. And you're seeing millions of dollars being poured into some of these states by outside groups to support ballot measures on gun control, safe storage, universal background checks, magazine capacity bans, and all those things. And while we may have the upper hand, we also have people and figures in government who have the full force and weight of government behind them, with the ability to put laws into place that they know are going to be challenged and struck down. But it's us, the American citizen, who are going to pay the bill on both sides, because we have to fight it. We have to fight against the government who's got the deep pocket using our tax dollars to fight it. And that's kind of the big screw you from a lot of these people is, oh, we know it's illegal. We'll just put it in. And then you have to go spend $100,000, $200,000, $1 million to try and fight it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, it's we'll see what happens here as we continue down this pathway of, debating what the Second Amendment means in today's time, and, see how people react. And it's up that, I look at it as my personal responsibility to continue to advocate for our Second Amendment rights and make sure that people are thinking about this, and that it's really important, especially when it comes to public safety and our own personal protection and personal safety for those that we love and care for.
Chris Cheng is our guest. Chris, we're running out of time. Real quick, what are you doing? What else are you looking forward to beyond the NRA meeting?
Well, I guess I'm so focused on the NRA meeting because it's just one of the most fun events, for me for the year. And I will say, I got here 2 days ago, and it feels great to be here, and it feels great to be here in person, seeing my colleagues, seeing my friends. COVID is thankfully very, very much over. Last year's annual meeting, it definitely felt like, a little bit of COVID hangover.
Right.
And it felt a little off. But this year, the show has been wonderful so far, and we're looking forward to a great weekend.
You're going to have to give us an update on this here in when we get back next month. All right, hold the line, folks. We're out of time for this segment. We got more coming up. Willie Waffle is dead ahead. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Chris, just wanted to give you a final bite at the apple here. Anything? What specifically what's your most favorite part of the NRA meetings when you get a chance to go down? I've never been to one, and I probably should. It's a tax write-off. I mean, I could do it for the show, right? I could come down there and broadcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, you should absolutely make it to one of the annual meetings, and it rotates around. Next year is going to be in Dallas, I believe. And you're right, we're in Indianapolis this year. And so, for me, to be frank, the best part about the annual meeting for me is the people. And I know the obvious answer is supposed to be the guns, and don't get me wrong. I mean, seeing the guns and all the product is great, but I think especially, we have so many, relationships with people over social media and obviously, radio and whatnot. But then to actually see people live in the flesh, right? You get to build rapport and connect with people in a way that technology will never be able to provide. So
pressing the flesh, breaking bread together, doing that kind of stuff. I mean, when I went to SHOT Show, it's been 15 years since I've been to SHOT Show, but when I went to SHOT Show, that was my big thing, getting to meet the people and sit down and talk, have dinner with them. It was an amazing time.
Yeah. And you find these just serendipitous moments, right? Where I was at a dinner last night, and a gentleman sits down to my right, and we start talking, and he owns Fostech. And I was thinking to myself, Fostech, I know that brand. And so I went to my YouTube channel and brought up this Fostech video where I have a 30-round 12-gauge shotgun drum, right, and hooking it up to this Fostech 12 semi-auto shotgun, and it's a magazine or a drum-fed 12-gauge shotgun, and I ripped off 30 12-gauge rounds in less than 7 seconds. And I got to show the owner of Fostech this video, and he loved it. I mean, it was just really fun just to run into him and meet him and get to know him and his team better.
I love it. And so, like I said, one of these days, maybe next year, I might do SHOT Show, or maybe I'll do the NRA meeting or something, but something fun like that for Firearms Friday. That'd be a great opportunity.
Indeed.
SHOT Show is always good because it's in Vegas. I mean, who doesn't like Vegas every now and then?
Exactly.
All right. Anything else you're working on beyond SHOT Show you want to tease us with, or what's the next steps going out?
Yeah, APA GOA, which is the Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association group that I co-founded. We're continuing to build out our membership base across the country. We have a training event with a very notable gun celebrity trainer coming up in August, which is National Shooting Sports Month. So, August, and the location is going to be Florida. So, yeah, I'll be we're finalizing details. When those are finalized, I'll definitely be promoting the event to get people to buy tickets and come get trained.
August is National Shooting Sports Month. Of course it is. That's my birthday month. So
there we go.
Of course it is. So, all right. Well, Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, my friend, thank you so much. Let's get a after action report next month when we come back, and we'll talk about what happened here. Huh?
Sounds great. See you then.
Hey, friend. Say hi to everybody for me, will you?
Will do. Take care.
Thanks so much for coming on board. I appreciate it. Chris Cheng, our guest here on the Michael Duke Show. Getting ready to jump back into it here. We got Willie Waffle coming up in just a minute. That would be fun. I think I need to explore that. I did that one year. I went down to SHOT Show, and I broadcast live from down. I didn't go to Radio Row. I broadcast live in the evenings because that was when my show was in the evening from Vegas, though, and recapped everything that I'd done. I did some interviews out on the floor and played some of those and things like that. It'll be. I think that would be a fun thing to do. I need to go back. I need to go back down there to SHOT Show and just have a broadcast from down there. This time we'll go to Radio Row. We'll do it from Radio Row down there. That would be a fun opportunity. So, I'm just here for Willie Waffle. Well, some people are. That's what it's all about. Every now and then, says Brian. Chris is looking a lot happier. Yeah, no, I mean, Chris, I think it was a little stressful, and he's now as excited again. He's like a kid in a candy store. He gets to go down there and do that. Do both. Oh, man. I'd love to. This is my busiest time of year, though, unfortunately. I would have a hard time. We'll have to see when the next NRA annual meeting is. But I always have a hard time in March, April, and May. Those are my busiest months. Well, March, April, May. And then September, October, and November. Those are my two big times a year where I'm just super busy. So it is what it is. All right. Phone is going to ring here any second. So we're going to talk with Willie Waffle here as soon as he dials in. We're about 20 seconds out and we're going to jump into this. I should change my official background color here to the Willie color. Hey, look at that. Orange. It's beautiful. All right. Phone is now buzzing. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Let's get to it. Okay. All right. Now I'm ready. I was going to say something, but I couldn't. Welcome back. The Michael Duke Show. Willie Waffle is with us. It's the weekend. We're ready to go. Let's not dally. Let's get into it. We've got lots of news to cover today. Entertainment news, movies, and streams. That's what we do. Let's get started. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. You know, I don't know if you heard the news, but it's been super hot in New York. And, I feel like we missed spring. We jumped right into summer, and I hate that.
Oh, man. Well, it's okay. We're on third winter here. It's still snowing. So it's fine. You don't do second winters here. We do third winters. So,
well, and can I just say, the greatest story that I've seen in the last week came out of Alaska.
Yeah.
When the moose walked into the hospital.
Oh,
that to me was awesome.
Yeah, that's just a few blocks away from me, and I'm like, wow, look at that. They've been really hungry. I got a moose that's been hanging out around my house, sleeping on my porch. So it's like it's just it's just one of those things. All right, well, let's get into it. What do I start with? We're nerds, so let's start with Star Wars. New stuff.
Oh yes. Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars. There was lots of Star Wars news, man. I think the biggest news, the news that I think a lot of people wanted to hear, Rey is coming back to the Star Wars universe.
Rey.
Yes.
Daisy Ridley. She's getting her own deal, huh?
Yeah, she's getting her own deal. They revealed there's going to be a new Star Wars movie. It's going to be set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. And yes, our Rey Skywalker is going to be now a Jedi Master trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. And what that is code for is to make a new franchise of movies with new characters so we can make billions and billions of dollars on top of the billions and billions we already have.
I know. We'll see. We're in new territory. So now they don't have to hold the canon for much else, and now they can just make stuff up as they go along.
That's right, and that's what they want. Let's be honest. You know, hey, we don't have to worry about Mark Hamill. Maybe we'll let him have like a little cameo or something. But and we don't have to worry about all the other people. We just want to ride our show pony,
right?
And it's Daisy Ridley, and you know what? I think these movies are going to be good. I really do.
That'll be fun.
I really do. Yeah, and there was a bunch of other stuff that's coming along too. We found out that they're going to do another movie that's almost like a look back in the Star Wars universe that's going to be looking at a movie that will take place around the New Republic era, which is kind of what's happening with The Mandalorian.
I'm
I
liking
don't
that.
know if they're going to cross paths or not. We found out that Rosario Dawson, her new Ahsoka series, is going to premiere in August on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
Yep.
I'm waiting for that. That's a great story. I can't wait to see more about that.
Oh, I think that's going to be really cool. And well, I can't tell you because you haven't seen it. I will. People who know what I'm talking about know that the seeds have been planted in a recent series.
Well, I know that Ahsoka appeared in the last season of Mandalorian, so I expect her to pop back in this one. But they're also doing what? Andor and some other stuff?
Yeah, so you got a season 2 of Andor, which might be the last season. That's coming out next August 2024. And the thing that was really interesting, there have been a couple of projects which seem to have gone away, that seem to have just kind of disappeared, that they made a point of letting everybody know that those projects are not gone yet. And one was the Taiki Waititi movie that he's been writing for, I don't know, 5 years, 3 years. How long has it been? It's been a long time. And matter of fact, they said the reason it's taking a long time is because he wants to write it himself, and it's taking a while. And all I could hear was, we wanted to get a co-writer. We wanted somebody to help him out. He refused. So now we're waiting for him to get it done.
Right.
That's what I heard. And the thing that I'm excited about, I still don't believe it's going to happen, but they said that they are still developing a Lando Calrissian story with Donald Glover reprising his role of Lando Calrissian, the young Lando.
That'd be interesting. I mean, that would be interesting. Let's just put it that way. That would be an interesting series. But Taiki Waititi is a genius when it comes to directing and everything else. So I can't wait to see anything that he does. I've liked pretty much. So I'm ready to, and for those of you who don't know, he's done What We Do in the Shadows. He's done several episodes of The Mandalorian, and of course, Ragnarok. He was the director of Ragnarok.
And I will throw out there also Jojo Rabbit, which may be
true. That
one
was
of the best movies you'll ever see.
Yeah,
one of the best things you'll ever see.
That really made his bones with that movie for sure. So, all right, well, some good Star Wars stuff for us. What else we get? Stranger Things. 11, Millie Bobby Brown, 11, is getting hitched. Now, you wouldn't think that. You watch the movie, you're like, she's 12. No, she's not. She's 19 or 20. I mean, she's right in there, and she's getting married to some rock and roll royalty here.
Yeah, this is a story that just makes me think she is going to be this generation's Elizabeth Taylor. Yes, 19-year-old Millie Bobby Brown is getting hitched to John Bon Jovi's son, Jake. Oh, yes, and in true modern fashion, my friends, they announced it via Instagram, where she posted a picture of him and her professing her love and how they've had 3 summers together, and now they're going to spend the rest of their summers together forever. And she showed that big rock of a ring that she's wearing. Let me tell you, I didn't realize it, but now I know where all the money went when we bought Slippery When Wet a few years ago in our youths. Okay?
Big money, huh?
Yeah.
Big money.
Yeah, that thing could choke Godzilla, baby.
Man. All right. Well, that's good for her. I hope she finds out. It's so rare to see these things last in Hollywood. Well, in many parts, but in Hollywood, it's under the microscope. So I wish her the best, and I hope she gets a chance to enjoy that and explore that and have all those summers that she wants. That's a good thing. I just wanted to come back I just wanted to come back and do more Stranger Things. So
well, yeah, Stranger Things, they've got the one more season to go, right? And she's been doing okay with the Enola Holmes series. But 50-50 they actually get to the altar. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it could be at this point. I mean, who knows? It's Hollywood, man. It's Hollywood.
Yeah, and they're 19 and 20 years old.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I got married when we were 19 and 20.
Well, that's true.
Been married for 32 years. 32 coming up on 33 years. So it can happen. It can happen. All right.
So you've shown me to be more optimistic than I have been now.
Not everybody is us. That's what I'm saying right here. Let's see. I think last big good one here. The family Stallone premieres
God,
on
yeah.
May the 17th. It's a reality show, apparently. It's with
Yep,
Sylvester
it's a
Stallone and
reality
his
show.
wife and his daughters.
Yeah,
and-
well, yeah, his model wife and his model actress wannabe daughters. And yes, they are going to be in a reality program on Paramount Plus starting May 17th. And the thing that got me, the thing that made me, well, I'm not going to lie, it darkened my soul. In the trailer, they reveal that Al Pacino shows up
in the reality show. Al Pacino in a reality show.
Al Pacino. I want 1972 Godfather Al Pacino to come back through time, find modern day Al Pacino, and punch him in the face.
Say hello to my little friend.
That would be perfect. I just, dude, what are you doing? Don't you know what we are? Don't you remember how we held to our values in the 70s? It was about the art. Now you're doing some stinking reality show.
Well, and I got to wonder if Stallone pulled this reality show as part of his deal doing Tulsa King. Tulsa King is amazing, by the way. Tulsa King is a great show on Paramount Plus. But you got to wonder, because it's also on Paramount Plus, did he, was this some kind of side deal that he were, and his daughter's in Tulsa King too. So
no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind, and no doubt in my mind, it was his daughters who were convincing him, we could have a show just like the Kardashians, Dad. It would really help our career, Dad. This is what you can do for us, Dad. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know if I'll watch it, but interestingly enough, real quick, last time, streaming service, HBO Max going away. Bye-bye. Merging with Discovery Plus, being called a new service. It's going to be called Max. I got the notification the other day, but they weren't real clear if I'm still going to have Discovery Plus if I have Max, and vice versa. It's a little confusing.
All right. So here's what I've gotten from this. That according to Warner Brothers / Discovery, HBO Max subscribers will quote unquote seamlessly transition into Max on May 23rd when it premieres.
Right.
But you'll also have like this new 2-part sign-in process, and probably have to give up some information, yada yada yada. Now, Disney Plus, they during the press conference, that was one of the things that was talked about. Are you taking everything from Disney Plus? Is Disney Plus totally going to become part of Max? The answer is no.
Discovery Plus. Discovery Plus, not
right?
Disney
Or
Plus.
Discovery Plus. Sorry. Yeah, Discovery Plus is still going to exist, and they want to keep it alive because of its price point. Given it's like what, $6.99, they said they have a lot of subscribers. They know that a lot of those subscribers are not going to a higher subscription service. That they want to honor that. They still will have a lot of programming on Discovery Plus, and they will be contributing some of it to Max. So the answer is kind of like, if you're a big fan of Discovery Plus, you're going to keep it.
Yeah, that's my problem. I have both HBO Max and Discovery Plus, and I was hoping that I could just go to Max and get everything I wanted, but no, they're gonna jab you for both probably when it's all said and done.
Yeah, they are, and all the announcements about Max. I mean, they announced a couple of Discovery things with like Joanna Gaines was going to be starting up there. They have that new Barbie Dreamhouse reality show, competition show to help promote the Barbie movie. That's going to be a Max thing. Plus, I think it's going to be on HGTV. But all the stuff that they're really promoting is screaming, HBO Max, if you will.
Right.
They confirmed the Harry Potter series that we talked about last week. It's going to happen. They announced that they're working on a spinoff of The Big Bang Theory, and they're going to do a TV series based on the Conjuring movies.
Oh, okay. Well, my wife will be excited about that, so that'll be good. All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. That's supposed to be coming in June, right?
Yeah. So May 23rd is the big day.
All right.
The big day. And that is also going to be the day they roll out their new Gremlins series.
Oh.
So they're trying to entice you to come in for that.
Okay, we're down to just a couple minutes here. I don't have a whole lot. I definitely want to get to Renfield. Give me one of the other ones here before we jump out.
The other one I'll give you, because at least it's something you might want to check out. Florida Man on Netflix. It is a series. It's kind of a comedy detective mystery, a film noir in a TV kind of setting. Edgar Ramirez, this disgraced cop, he owes a ton of money to a gangster in Philadelphia, and his only way out is to go down to Florida and retrieve the gangster's runaway girlfriend. And once he gets down there, well, dude, he's got to deal with all of his family that's down there, all of the history that's down there. He's got to find the girlfriend, and he stumbles across a very, very big mystery, and he's not going to be able to resist. You know, and it's pretty entertaining. I mean, I think it could be a lot funnier. I think that it was billed more as a comedy, and from what I've been watching, it's leaning more into the mystery. And
Okay.
it's almost like Ozark. If you like Ozark, like I feel like that's where it really fits. Maybe not as serious as that, but the same kind of feeling, the same kind of vibe. I'm at like 2 to 2.5 waffles.
All
I
right.
want to see if it gets really, really good.
All right, so Florida Man, Netflix, go check it out right now. And now we get to Renfield, which is the new movie, Nicholas Hoult and, of course, Nicolas Cage. It looks hysterical. You just got a chance to see it last night. Give me your thoughts.
I am so brokenhearted right now.
Oh.
What was the movie that we were promised? The movie we were promised is that Renfield wants to kind of get out of this codependent relationship he has with Dracula. He wants to spread his wings and kind of live his own life, but he's still drawn in by the King of Darkness. And that's where the best stuff happens. That's where the comedy happens. He's going to his group therapy sessions. He's trying to talk about things in a way that, doesn't make it obvious he's working for Dracula. Nicolas Cage is absolutely marvelous and hysterical and perfect in this role because he's so over the top and so crazy and so funny, and yet he also brings the darkness and the evil and the danger that he needs for some of the darker parts of the movie. And then they throw all that away, and it becomes about Renfield somehow gets involved with this cop who's investigating a crime lord, and it's like, wait a minute, what happened to the movie I was promised?
Oh no! All right, well, we're almost out of time. -1 to 4 waffles on Renfield.
1 waffle. I'm really disappointed.
Oh man! Oh, my wife is going to be so disappointed. All right, well, we'll have to see how that. We'll have to see how the public takes it. It'll be interesting to see when the regular public, not the movie critics, get a chance to see it. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming in. We will check you next week.
Next week, we're going to talk about The Covenant.
The Covenant. Okay, I'm excited about that. Folks, we're out of time. We'll see you on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. See you then. Enjoy. All right, so break this down for me because, damn, every new trailer I watched just made it look better and better.
Because they showed you all the good stuff. They showed you all the things that we wanted this movie to be, and it's almost like the screenwriters just ran out of material. They couldn't think of anything to keep that story going. They couldn't think of anything to keep those characters moving forward. And all of a sudden, it's just this boring, rote, crime drama. The cop is trying to take down the gang that killed her father, and all the twists and turns you can see from a mile away. What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
That's disappointing. Because again, I thought it looked more like a dark comedy than anything else. And although, I mean, I'm sure we could have the action and the mystery and the twist and everything else. And you saw that there was a hookup between Nicholas Hoult and the cop. I was just like, okay, maybe she was going to try and help get him away from Dracula and everything. But
exactly,
yeah,
something that would be much more interesting, or maybe he runs away from home, just give me something interesting.
Oh man,
this one hurts because I'm telling you, Nicolas Cage is fantastic. He is just the right guy. He understands the camp value of this thing and goes for it. I mean, God, didn't I read this week that like he even had his teeth shaved down to look more Fang-like just for the role?
Oh, I don't know. Did he? If so,
yes, he did. He did.
Oh,
yeah.
Geez.
That's right. Him and De Niro.
That's right.
Okay.
Maybe he'll show up in the Stallone reality show.
Oh God, please don't put that dagger through my heart.
I know.
It's bad enough. It's bad enough.
This week, what did I finish? I guess last week I talked about I finished the new Star Trek Strange Worlds. I also finished The Night Agent. Excellent show, The Night Agent. I finished it.
Yeah.
And I started watching The Recruit, which is funny. Oh, man, it's so funny, but also action-packed and just a twister and turner. You should go watch that. It's on Netflix as well. The Recruit, about a young CIA lawyer in a cutthroat world. It's very, very cool. That's it. That's all I got for you, my friend.
Hey, you know me, man. Mandalorian's got 2 more episodes, and so does Star Trek Picard.
I see.
Then what am I gonna do?
I know.
Then what am I gonna do?
I keep seeing teasers. I'm in a few Star Trek groups, just in passing, and I don't ever get into the articles, but I see some of the teasers that are in some of these articles, and it looks like Picard is really going over the top on some of this stuff, like really delivering on some of this good Star Trek universe stuff.
God. It really has been one of the best episodes of The Next Generation that we've ever seen. And I call it The Next Generation because that's really what it is. Okay.
Right.
Like, they brought the whole gang back together, it's, whatever it is, 20, 30 years later. I'm telling you, just the service to the fans with all the little Easter eggs and all the little callbacks have been amazing. It's a really cool, interesting mystery. It's been full of tons of action. And I hate to say it, it really does feel like they're setting us up for another series. Yeah.
Well,
we'll see how it goes.
Again, Paramount wants to milk that as much as they can. I mean, why not? What do they got? Like 3 or 4 Star Wars or Star Trek TV shows going on right now? I mean, it's just like never ending.
You might as well throw in another one.
Might as well throw another one in the wash.
Marvel showed us the way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think the fandom likes it, so I think that's the good way to do it as well. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for coming on board. We will see you next week.
All right, I'll be there.
All right, for reals, I'm out of time, folks. I hope you have a great day. We will see you on Monday.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.